Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Sri Lanka Medical Association, let me welcome you all to this important webinar. Sri Lanka Medical Association, the premier medical association in Sri Lanka, has different kinds of expert committees. Now, the latest expert committee and one of its most important expert committees is Disaster Resilience and Management Expert Committee, where we discuss the important and relevant subjects in the country context on a day-to-day basis. And this is the second such webinar series from the Expert Committee of Disaster Resilience and Management. And today we are going to discuss about the drought and floods, the dilemma of rational use of water amidst the polycrisis. Now, it is no strange that we have been experiencing rain at most of the parts of our country, as well as in the northern province and north central province, we are experiencing a drought. Now, this is a very peculiar situation where we have multiple hazards at the same time. Now, central to both these hazards is the water, the most valuable commodity we have with us, and we have been using this water for different purposes. For example, it's vital for our agriculture, our irrigation, as well as for drinking water purposes. Now, the objective of today's workshop, today's webinar, is to see and explore the ways where we can sort of rationalize our water use for agriculture, irrigation, as well as drinking water purposes amidst these multi-crisis situations. For example, now we are having drought as well as floods. So to enlighten us on this specific subject, we have a very eminent speaker, very experienced speaker. Let me introduce our speaker today. He is Mr. SPC Sugishwara, an engineer by profession. He started his career as an irrigation engineer in early February 1998, following his graduation from University of Moratuwa, Department of Civil Engineering, BSc in Engineering. And he has held various positions in the irrigation department, such as irrigation engineer, resident engineer, chief project engineer, chief engineer, and currently he holds the position of direct irrigation, hydrology, and disaster management. He has also obtained a master's degree in water-related disaster management from the Grips University, Japan. And also he is currently functioning as a chartered engineer, as well as he is a fellow of the Engineers Institute, Sri Lanka. So without much ado, let me welcome Engineer Sugishwara and invite him to this important webinar. Mr. Sugishwara, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lahiru, and good evening to you all. Let me first share my screen, my presentation. I think you all can see my presentation, right?
Yes, Mr. Vishal. Yeah, we can hear you and we can see your presentation.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Dr. Lahiru, for inviting me to speak in this on this timely important topic. As we all know, as you got into your introduction, you have very well understood the situation. And actually, Dr. Lahiru called me a few days back, asking whether I can speak on floods and droughts. So I happily agreed, as this is the area of my specialization. 2-3 days later, when he sent me the topic, I was a little bit reluctant because this is more related to policy matters. You all know, as a government service, I am not so independent to talk on policy matters. However, I can talk I can focus in especially technical matters, which would essentially lead the policy matters. So my presentation and my speak mostly focus in the technical aspects of the matter. And this is obviously related to water and water management. The topic is directly in the subject of water management. I divided my slides as this as you can see in this in the screen. I will be starting with general introduction to water resources of Sri Lanka. Then I will move to introduce you the floods, but technically introduce. We need to identify these things, these terms technically, and also I will introduce droughts. You may be wondering what are the facts behind to identify the floods, but there are technical aspects. Then I will be next talking the current situation of the country, and then the most important part of this discussion, the managing flood and droughts. So as I was informed by Dr. Lahiro, there will be a discussion session. So you are free to ask any question during the discussion session. And if you see this slide, there are few pictures I have pasted here. Left-hand corner top picture shows the annual distribution of annual average rainfall of Sri Lanka. Now you see clearly the rainfall distribution. The spatial distribution is from 1,000 millimeters per year up to more than 5,000 millimeters per year. So you see the high variation of rainfall. Actually, this amount of rainfall can be considered as comparatively as a very high amount of rainfall when compared to other situation of other countries. However, the issue is the spatial variation. The high spatial variation, though we are in a very small island, almost equal to 65,000 square kilometers. However, you can see within kilometers of distance, the variation of the rainfall is very high. Not even that, actually the variation in the temporal variation is also a very big issue. In some period we are getting very higher amount of rainfalls, while in some periods we are getting less, or sometimes 4 months we are not getting a single drop of rainfall. Therefore, the crisis is there. The spatial and temporal variation is the real issue we have to address in. Now, if you see the picture down, this is the map of river basins of Sri Lanka. Now, you see we have river basins, 103 river basins in this small country. Now, river basins are being numbered from Kalani River downwards, starting from the Kalani River is the number 1. Then Kalu River, I'm sorry, the Parliament Lake is the number 2. Then Kalu River, number 3. Likewise, it goes up to Attanagaluya, number 103, which is very adjacent river basin to Kalani River. Then the Jaffna Peninsula is not belong to any of these river basins. Actually, there is no river in Jaffna. However, however, as far as you are concerned, floods, even Jaffna Peninsula, even without a river, you can observe, you can experience flood situations in some higher rainfall events. The middle big picture shows the network of Sri Lanka. Actually, when we have 103 river system, not single rivers. We call it a river system as it is connected many tributaries, and finally collecting into a one river and flowing into the sea. You see, this is very dense river network in Sri Lanka. Is in Sri Lanka when compared to right hand corner upper picture, it is the Japanese river. It's the picture in Japan, the river network in Japan. Now, Japan also somewhat similar to Sri Lanka. However, the density of rivers in Japan also not comparable with Sri Lanka. Now, if you see the right-hand bottom picture, the river network of India is very. There are very fewer number of rivers in India. Now, if you are traveling from somewhere in a highway in Sri Lanka, you are crossing many rivers. Sometimes, if you are traveling from Ratnapura to Kalawana, you may be crossing a very rich many rivers. Within 10 minutes, you are passing a river. You can understand the density of river network. This is a very special feature to Sri Lanka. But if you are traveling in India, sometimes you are traveling 5-6 hours without seeing a river bridge. Now, this situation is can be considered as a blessing from water resources. Now, these blue color dots, blue color patches are showing reservoirs in Sri Lanka. No, in Sri Lanka we have more than 100 major reservoirs and more than 300 medium-sized reservoirs and around 15,000 small village reservoirs. Now, if you consider the reservoir density, the reservoir density is the highest in Sri Lanka than any other country in the world. We keep the number one position if you are considering the reservoir density. But if you are considering the per capita water availability, Sri Lanka is not in the highest position, but in the middle position, not in the lowest. We have developed water resources into considerable extent. These figures are telling you we have developed water resources into a considerable extent because, as I remember, the per capita availability of water is kind of around between 30 and 40 in the world. We are holding that position. Now, when you say per capita availability, that is the storage capacity of the country divided by number of population. And the highest position takes the Australia, because Australia has a very fewer population, and they have developed very big reservoirs, number of very big reservoirs. That is why they are all in the number one. Now, these things are kind of a introduction to water resources in Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, the primary source of water is the rainfall, as you all know. But in some other countries, not necessarily the rainfall. Glacier melting, the ice melting may be the primary source of water in some other countries. For example, Afghanistan, Afghanistan is a very dry country, but their rivers are very rich because because the ice melting collect water into the rivers. And these are the things I want to highlight you. Reasonably, we are getting reasonably higher rainfall when compared to most of other countries. Annual average rainfall varies from 1,000 millimeters per year to 5,000 millimeters per year in some areas. Temporal variation is also very high in the country as spatial variation. Floods can be existing in any part of the country, while other areas are facing drought conditions. And in some other cases, drought can be ended with a flood instantly with a single rainfall event in some areas, not especially in the area where there are no storage reservoirs. And Sri Lanka has been identified as a highly vulnerable country for floods. Now, floods can be experienced or observed in anywhere of the island. And these things, these red maps red areas are highly flood-prone areas. But not only these areas, there are many other places. These areas, the area we have mapped up to now. Now there are many other river basins we mapped in the future course. We are working towards that direction. As I said, in this area, the northern part of the island, generally dry. However, some periods you experience reasonably high, considerably high flood situations in these areas too. And the eastern side and then the southeastern side, also we need to develop these flood-prone area mapping. And Mahavali River is the largest river in the country. You know, it encounter around 1/6 of the country, and the downstream areas are highly vulnerable for floods, highly prone for floods, and upstream also prone for floods. We have not yet developed the area mapping. And as I said, there are 103 river systems. Out of that, we have identified 25 river basins are critical for floods. And don't be misunderstood that this, though in number it is 25 out of 103, the land area encounters more than two-thirds of the country. And Kelani, Kalu, Attanagalu, Bin Illala, Mahavali, Daduru, and Mundeniyaru rivers are identified as very vulnerable, highly vulnerable river basins for floods. And I want to at the beginning I said I want to introduce you floods. Now, when you are talking about floods, there are many various categories. Now, the first type of the category is called riverine floods. You may be knowing these things, but I am going to introduce, assuming that you are not aware. And as you are doctors in profession, riverine floods are a flood that can occur when rivers overflow their banks and flow into the surrounding areas. These types of floods can result from torrential rain or melting glaciers. It's not relevant to Sri Lanka at the upstream, and depending on the surrounding terrain, can stick around for days or even weeks. And these are some pictures of river. This is only what this is telling. There are some type of floods we observe from river overflowing of the rivers, and those are called riverine floods. It's Generally, that is the most general understanding of the floods. These are some figures from Sri Lanka and during flood situations. And it's also the same type of floods. And these figures are somewhat different. These are called urban floods. These photos have been taken. You can identify these two bottom figures, the Sri Lankan Parliament. The Sri Lankan Parliament has been subjected to floods in the year 2010. As I remember, in December 2010, Colombo got around 500 millimeters of rainfall just within 9 hours. So Colombo drainage system is not capable of draining out that amount of water. As such, these waters are accumulated around the township, then causes for this type of flooding. Now you see, this was a very severe flood. As I remember, two people died in this flood by falling into a roadside drainage line. And the vehicle insurance companies stopped paying compensation for vehicles because large amount of number of vehicles has been damaged by inundating in the immersing in these waters. So because if they have paid compensation, then they could have bankrupted as this number of is very large. Therefore, urban floods are also vulnerable. We cannot neglect these type of floods. But this is at this time, the Kalani River level was very low. I have all the data. The Kalani River is not responsible for this flood. Kalani River has no responsibility because it was in a very low level at this time, because upstream of the catchment, Kalani catchment has not experienced rainfall in this event. And these were at that time, these are the types of the Colombo drainages. You may remember now the situation is far better. The Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation has developed after 2010 floods. These under some international funds, and these type of drainages Norway can accommodate that type of a higher amount of drainages in a higher then we experienced this type of flooding even in 1996, as I remember, in Colombo. Even the irrigation department building was under flood at time. Even the Tumula Junction was in a 3-4 feet high flood at that time. Those are called what you call these urban floods. And then the other type of floods, you can say reservoir-induced floods. Reservoir-induced floods, when you say that when the reservoir catchments are getting high amount of rainfall, the reservoirs are getting higher amount of water into the reservoir. So reservoir has a limited capacity. You cannot build a reservoir with a infinite capacity. The capacity is limited. So when the reservoir reach its full supply level, reservoir spillway gates has to be definitely open to discharge excess amount of water. This situation, this spill discharge, sometimes may be causing downstream floods if the amount of reach in kind of a threshold. Now, these are some pictures during you may have evidence. I have personally seen this type of things. Downstream sometimes now when the Drought spillway is open, if the discharge is exceeding 30,000 cubic feet per second, then downstream effects may be flood effects may be higher. Likewise, we have identified a threshold limit for each and every these reservoirs, so that we could warn people, downstream people, some at least few hours prior, about the severity of the incoming floods. Now, these are called reservoir-induced floods. Actually, not only the spillway spilling, but also reservoir dam breaching also can be identified as a reservoir-induced floods. This one is Valadapiti. There is a medium-sized tank in Ampara district. As I remember, in the year 2016, during the high rainfall event, the tank was breached. Then downstream was affected by flood. Actually, downstream agricultural area was affected, not human beings are, so that, I mean, the human lives are not being affected at that time. But anyway, some cases are very serious. Now, if you see this picture, this left-hand corner picture, this is actually the senior doctors who are joining, maybe remembering this Kantale Dam breach in 1987. At that incident, 269 people died, and 10,000 acres of lands has been completely damaged, and damage to families who lost their loved ones is countless. So you cannot you cannot evaluate. The effects may be still there, even though it is in the. I'm sorry, this is not 1887. This is 1987. This is 1987. This is the most serious dam breach event experienced in Sri Lanka. There are many technical reasons behind, and some reasons you cannot openly talk, because as it is somewhat old, I can openly talk. This is according to our seniors, the political authorities has been impressed, the reservoir authorities, to give approval for building a water storage tank on the pond, and but the irrigation authorities has given their opposition. But anyway, by using the political power, they have built, and that has been cause for this flood. There are many stories. Now, if you see the right side picture, this is the Senanayaka Samudra, which is the largest reservoir in Sri Lanka. Some people say it is Morakakanda, but not. It's still the number one is Senanayaka Samudra. It's 10 lakhs acre feet. 10 lakhs acre feet. Morakakanda is only half of that. Second the second one is the maybe the Morakakanda or Victoria, but it's the half of the size of Senanayaka Samudra. This has been built. When you see this, this is supplying irrigated water for more than 150,000 acres of paddy lands. 20% of country's rice need supplying this Senanayaka Samudra project, the railway project. This is very valuable project. When you see this, you are enlightened to see this kind of reservoir. However, according to the world humanitarian definitions of international humanitarian law, these reservoirs are being identified as places where dangerous forces are stored, and that is international law. That kind of a law is approved internationally to emphasize the reservoir owners or reservoir managers to emphasize their severity of their and responsibility of the job they are holding. So in Sri Lankan history, this Kankale Dam is the major dam failure, only one major dam failure. But if you browse the internet, if you browse the European or USA cases, there are bigger number of cases. There are many deaths within last 200 years. Many big dam failures in Europe and especially in France and Germany, and in USA, there are many higher number of cases. Then when you compare the European and USA situation, so we are managing somewhat better than and another thing is most of our dams are old dams built by kings, but but after rehabilitation is still using the mostly the earthen dams are the older ones, but structures have been rehabilitated at after the independence or during the British period. And another type of floods, I was talking about reservoir-induced floods. Then we can say flash floods. Flash floods can be either earlier ones, or as riverine flood, or reservoir-induced flood, or a urban flood. But definition of flash flood is kind of should be quick. The gap between rainfall, if the gap between rainfall event and the occurring time of floods are less than 6 hours, we call it internationally a flash flood. You can remember very recently we have experienced this type of flash floods in Kandy and in Akurana, and in upside picture is Akurana town, and this is Kandy. Now this is Kandy railway station, the right side picture. In similar in one event, those towns were flash floods. The flood, at that time, the time interval between rainfall and floods were close to 2 hours. Close to 2 hours accordingly to the data, available data. Now, this type of floods is very difficult to warn. So people must be educated. We have to. The option is we have to identify the such areas where which areas are prone to flash floods, because this is very dangerous as instantly coming. Now, even in Arabic countries, the rainfall situation is very small. Now, for example, in Egypt, in the areas like Sinai Peninsula, the annual average rainfall is just 150 millimeters. Very small rain. However, even in such areas, you experience flash floods very rarely. But they say if you see a sign of a flash flood, the instruction is leave everything and go, and leave everything and evacuate. Even you are advised to leave your kids. If you are waiting to get your kids, definitely you will be also dying. So the advice is that it's like inhuman, but the advice in such areas, so fortunately we are not facing such situations, but in such areas the advice is leave everything and go. And then I am talking to introduce you the droughts, and droughts are also not simply there are some definitions, there are some categories of droughts. Now, maybe the Shiromani have introduced you these things, but let me repeat, even if she emphasized, meteorological droughts generally defined as a period with an abnormal precipitation deficit in relation to the long-term average. Now, if the long-term average in that period is very less, we did not call it a drought, even though we are experiencing the similar situation. But that should be reasonably lower than the long-term average. Meteorological drought. Now we are experiencing a meteorological drought in this country these days. Though we are experiencing some rainfall in southwestern region. Then the other categories of the drought is hydrological drought. Actually, the hydrological drought is if you are experiencing very few waters lower than the long-term average in reservoirs or in groundwater or in streams or rivers, then you call it a hydrological drought. I'm sorry, I have written this as a meteorological, but if the reservoirs and streams and groundwater levels are showing the abnormally low values than the long-term average values in that period, then we call it a hydrological drought. Generally, meteorological droughts are leading hydrological droughts, but not essentially leading for hydrological drought. Sometimes you are observing meteorological drought, but you are not observing hydrological drought. Come into that later. Socioeconomic drought. This is the actually, if the you can define when demand for an economic good exceeds the supply as a result of weather-related shortfall in water supply, then you call it a sociological drought. Actually, socioeconomic drought is the matter you have to be worried in. And this is currently current reservoir level situation. Now, situation of reservoirs. Now, these are these graphs. Please, I want to emphasize this graph. Now, I have plotted the country's average water storage situation from January 1st to December 31st. Now, this green color one is 2022. Now, in this I don't know, this purple thinner line represent long-term average situation during a year by considering 10-15 years of data. And likewise, 2019, 2020, 2021, and this is 2023. Now you see this blue color line popping around September. Now we are in September 7, but this has been updated 2 weeks back. So up to that point, the reservoir water level situation countrywide, the total storage, we are calling total storage, the percentage-wise. Now this is the long-term average. Long-term average. You see, it's like it's the long-term average. This time is the long-term average. Now, see this. Now, long-term average. See this. This is this year average. Most of the time, it is slightly below the long-term average. From starting from the January 1st, today. Starting from the January 1st, slightly below, not very highly below. Now you see this is the this one is the long-term average. So this one is the this year situation. Now you see this is the reference. Now this is actually not more than around 3% difference. Now, however, we are talking much in this situation. If you are considering the reservoir storages, it's slightly below the average conditions, not very far below. Then why we are talking this much of this situation? I will be concentrating in that in the next few slides sometimes. Now you see even the 2019 situation. This is a line. See, this is much below than the long-term average. You see the gap. You see the gap. 2019, the drought situation, hydrological drought situation was much considerable, but I cannot remember we were not talking that much about the during that period. But now we are talking much better, we are talking much more. But 2019 situation, even 2018 situation, it's below lower than this year. Now, if you are considering the average situation, now actually why this is that much of talking? Actually, the situation, the reason is this. This is the Uddawalave River Basin. You know the adjacent river basin to Kalu River from the upstream, and from downstream it is adjacent river basin to Kiranara, and midway it's adjacent to Nilwala River. This is a larger river basin and mostly agricultural river basin. Reservoir, the water resources has been developed very well in this river basin. Now, you know, this is the Samanalava reservoir. Samanalava reservoir is built in 80s. Before that, in 1950s, Uddawalave reservoir has been built. And Ridiyagama reservoir has been built in the same period. And most of these minor reservoirs has been built in between 19 and 1980. And some of these reservoirs, like Mauwara reservoir, have been developed, constructed in 1998 to 1990, in the year 2000. I was the resident engineer to this Mauwara reservoir construction project. So I am very much aware of this situation of this river basin. And this Uddawalave reservoir is feeding more than 50,000 of acres of agricultural land, including rice, paddy, and then banana, and then some other varieties. It's a kind of a very big resource for farmers of this area, and even the drinking water supply and industrial water supply, and most of the waters needed in the Ambandura, this most part of the Ambandura district, are supplied by this Uddawalave River basin. But in later stage, Samanala reservoir has been built extensively for generating hydropower. But this has not affected the Uddawalave reservoir, because all the waters generated after generating electricity are coming to the Uddawalave reservoir. This is actually enhancing the reservoir basin's situation. This is actually leading to leading for lowering the spilling discharge of the Uddawalave reservoir. Because this should not be considered as a burden to farmers. This is actually enhancing the situation as far as water resources are concerned. Then you know, there is a very big leak in Malla now. These days, media is talking about the leak, and they have seen for the first time, people have been witnessed the size of the locations of water leakage and starting point. Now they are trying to seal the leakage as during the time of water level lower. in lower situation. But I don't know whether the effect may be successful or not. It's a huge task anyway. Then the Udawalawe reservoir, in this downstream, there's 50,000 acres of paddy land. Some part of these lands are being affected, and around more than 15,000 of acres has been affected out of these 50,000. These figures are not very accurate figures. This I am not remembering the accurate figures. Always I am generally talking about round figures so that you can get an idea. So these 15,000 of around 15,000 of acres of paddy land especially has been severely affected, and the farmers are complaining of Samala reservoir. They are complaining Samala has not released the water for Udawalawe in the needy time. But it's not really the case. There may be some contradictions. There are some other factors. Some of these factors I cannot openly talk because I am a government servant. But this reservoir is managed by Mahawali Authority of Sri Lanka. But downstream this reservoir, there is a scheme managed by the irrigation department, Lanka, which is cultivating more than 15,000 of acres. Lanka by Lanka, there is a built by Dutch in Lanka area and feeding for 15,000 acres of paddy and banana lands. Now, this scheme was very successful, and no considerable effect of this scheme. So, that is that fact you have to consider. There are many mismanagement of water in this reservoir this time, not all the time, in this Udawalawe reservoir. And my personal opinion is if the authorities manage the reservoir very well, these damages have been avoided or limited, reduced. But anyway, there is one fact. The most severe drought situation was in Udawalawe reservoir. We have all the rainfall data in the all around the country. So I have the evidence, first-hand evidence that Udawalawe catchment has not received rainfall. The most severe rainfall deficit was in Udawalawe. But you see in other parts, eastern, central, north central, Wayamba and northern provinces, there was a considerable drought situation. But paddy lands and other agricultural lands in those areas, in major schemes, has not been considerably affected. And actually, the paddy production is much higher than, as per the available information, that paddy production has not been exactly calculated by the statics are not still available. But according to the available verbal and kind of information, the paddy production is higher than the average in other areas. So, but minor schemes in this entire country, in this dry zone, are being affected in almost in everywhere, because minor schemes are designed for damaging. Now, in engineering terms, minor schemes are being designed for 75% rainfall values. When you say 75%, and that means 25. There is a 25% chance of failures. Then, in other words, if you are cultivating 4 years, there is a chance of damaging failing in 1 year, or if you are cultivating 4 seasons, out of 4 seasons, well, there is a chance of failing in 1 year. So that is the nature. And you cannot decide for 100% rainfall. Then the effectivity of water resources use may be in a question. Now, now water resources, now, Tahiru, still, can I continue? If you are facing time
No, I mean,
issue,
we
please
have,
inform me.
we can extend up to another 10 minutes unification. Yeah,
Okay,
because
thank
we
you.
started late.
Okay, thank you. Then resources development in Sri Lanka. Now, this is the right side map. This is a very high resolution map, but you cannot see actually you cannot see this all the features in this map. These are new proposals for water resources development. We call it water resources master plan. This has been first developed in 1958 by the irrigation department for the entire country. So some of these proposals in 1958 has been implemented. Left-hand picture Mahavali system is a proposal in the irrigation master plan in 1958. So the last reservoir was the Morgakanda has been built in last year. Still, Mahavali master plan has not been completed. According to the master plan, the water has to be diverted up to Kilnoche, Iranamadu reservoir. But I don't know. The proposal has been dropped down recently. I don't know why, and some politics. I don't know. But still there are some problems. Now, most of these reservoirs, including Morgakanda, the Boatanda, downstream Morgakanda, and Victoria, Ramdanigala, Kotmale, Upper Kotmale, Pugolla, all these are part of Mahavali master plan. And Minipe, and some of these, for example, Minipe was existing from the stream. Minipe has been then the downstream Alahara Mineria Yodala, then the Amadilla Yodala to feed to Parakama Samudra. Those are also under Mahavali, enhanced under Mahavali master plan. It has been implemented as a result of 1958 master plan. The master plan developed in 1958 was mostly focusing in irrigation and hydropower. That's why Mahavali reservoirs are delivering hydropower, and downstream systems are feeding for irrigation. And however, later there are many competitions, many competitors came into front, like drinking water, then industrial water, then water for forest industry, then water for now these things have come into compete for water resources. Sometimes, example, area reservoir from the wildlife, the main demand is to maintain the pattern. Don't fill them in area reservoir during some seasons. Reduce the water level so that elephants can have their foods. That kind of competitions are also there in the industry. So considering all these things, now we have updated the water resources master plan in the year 2040. So all the resources are all the proposals are there in this master plan. Some of these things are also implemented. For example, the Duroya, then Rambakannoya, Kalugaloy in Nampara, then Veheragala Reservoir, I'm sorry, Veheragala was in the 1915 master plan. Some new things are coming into play. Focus in not only irrigation and hydropower, but focus in drinking water supply and sometimes flood mitigation. But as a professional who have been practicing from 1997 in this industry, I must say water resources management and water resources development and flood management are kind of two different stories. Some people say if you if you collect water during the floods and if you divert into some other areas, you can manage floods, but that's not the story. If you are investigating deeply the patterns of rainfall and river flows, that's not the case. You have to manage floods. You have to manage develop water resources. Water resources development can be a kind of a supporting factor for flood management too. And sorry, I have been from my side. Okay. Now this is I intentionally put this diagram. This is actually Kalu River Basin. As you remember, I said Kalu River Basin is adjacent to the Udavalave River Basin. Adjacent to the Udavalave River Basin. Udavalave River Basin from upstream. So, Kalu River can be diverted into Udavalave. We have investigated this one. We have investigated many things. We have prepared many proposals. I have selected some of these proposals as to impress you that we are working in this area. Now, there is a river tributary of the Kalu River flowing from Kalawan area and flowing through Molkava, plus Singaland, that area, and collect to the main river. And this is a kind of a large tributary in the size of Nilola River Basin, and it's very rich in water resources. And now, this river basin is subject to minor flood situation. In Kuda, we call it Kudawe, and upstream we call it Kukulegaga. That river has not been developed into a reasonably, the water resources are not being used. So we have initiated this in the year 2014. I have personally involved in this, and we can build a large reservoir in downstream Kalawana in the area called Kukulegama and divert water into the Udavalave river reservoir, including power generation, a considerable amount of power generation by constructing a reservoir at Kukulegama. But the diversion canal length or the tunnel length, mostly it should be a tunnel, 30 kilometers. The rock is very sound, and the only issue is we are inundating very small area of Singaraja Forest Reserve. Though I just kind of the first boundary is not very clear in this area, but if you are if the authorities are interested, we can allow this proposal by manipulating small figures. But this is, if the diversion is there, we can definitely manage downstream floods, and we can increase. There's a one Kukuleganga powerhouse in power reservoir downstream. We can enhance the power generation there, and you will never be facing water shortage in Udavalave. And Udavalave reservoir mostly, almost in the most period of the year is halfly empty. It's feeling very rarely. And when this area is getting very high rainfall, you have the space in the Udavalave reservoir, so you can divert 300,000 acre-feet of water into the Wallaby Reservoir, which would solve all the water crisis in Hambantota district. This is actually a master plan. This is in the master plan. We call it Southeastern Dry Zone Canal. And if we implement this proposal, most this Udawalawe Reservoir issues would not be existing. And then likewise, there are many such proposals. I took only one example. We have a proposal to divert Elnikanga from upstream to Mahawali upstream. And there are many proposals. Likewise, the floods are also very severe, especially in southwestern region and also most part of the country. We have some flood management schemes like Elnikanga flood management system. There is a system, but that is not addressing today's demand. Now we have developed a very comprehensive proposal for managing Kalni River floods. Actually, World Bank was ready to fund in the year 2016. Later, with the crisis and with the government changes, this has been dropped down. Anyway, in a future time, this Kalni River flood protection proposal has to be implemented. Otherwise, Colombo city cannot be survived. In 2016, you will remember that there was a big flood. The damage was estimated by a University of Morocco and Dutch team, combination of a team. They have estimated the damage close to 100,000 million rupees. 100,000 million rupees. But if you are spending 150,000 million rupees, you can implement this proposal. By a single flood, you can get the return. And remember, 2016 is not the highest. It's actually the Nagalagam Street total level gauge. It was 7.6 feet. But reported highest one was 12 feet in 1980s. If such level flood is attacked Colombo city, half of the Colombo city would not be survived. Therefore, this proposal has to be implemented. As professionals, we are telling, but there are a lot of environmental changes, but there are now modern mitigation measures. These things has been studied in the pre-feasibility studies has been done, and full feasibility studies has to be done, and implementation has to be done. Likewise, we have a flood mitigation system in Dunkanga, in Illalaga. Those things are also not addressing current day demands. Therefore, these sort of things are also has to be upgraded. This is a continuous kind of effort. You cannot be talking of completely avoiding floods. During the flood management, we use the term mitigation, like maybe in medical terms, you are talking of dengue mitigation. You cannot avoid dengue, but you can mitigate. Like I am sorry, I don't know this, but I guess these things are correct. Likewise, floods cannot be avoided. Floods has to be managed or mitigate structurally. And there are many proposals like this. For Ratnapura, there is a very the city is subject in this is Ratnapura city, the middle the city and suburbs. This is inundated area during 2003. 2017 also same area was inundated. Damage was estimated to 150,000 million rupees in that year, in 2017. Not only in Kalu River, but Kalu, King, and Nillala River floods damage calculated to be 150,000 million rupees. We have studied this case, and we have come up with a very new kind of a proposal, and we call it dry dams, building upstream dry dam. There was a big, earlier proposal for building a dam in Mallala, upstream Ratnapura, big dam, generate electricity and mitigate floods. This proposal was objected by many parts of the society and the politicians, and this was a long awaiting proposal, but now you cannot implement this proposal. There's a development, when you consider the development of the area. Around 5,000 families has to be relocated, and many tea estates, many rubber estates, and especially the gemland. Gemlands are maintained by the inhabitant in the area as a kind of a fixed deposit. They get time to time, so they don't like to build a reservoir. So come up with a solution for building dry dams, building dry dams upstream Ratnapur. Dry dams are storing water only during the flood time. And after the floods, the river discharge, river capacity will be released without causing downstream floods. This is kind of the theory behind the dry dam. And in California, you have enough examples of dry dam. This is the using this is the dam. There is the upstream is empty. You can see the river is flowing. During high event, this is inundated, and this upstream, downstream, you cannot experiencing floods. This area you cannot the people cannot live, but they can use their land for their all the purposes. And agricultural department has promised us there are varieties of crops who can tolerate up to 10 days of inundation. So this proposal is I have presented this to Ratnapura DCC. All the politicians were there, all the sectors of the society were there, administration were there. They agreed this proposal unanimously, and this type of many proposals are there. This is the Callan River flood protection proposal. We are proposing to build flood embankments from Pugada to river mouth. These are very comprehensive proposal. There are many development. Some development kind of proposals are amalgamated with this proposal. There's no time of the speak in these things. So this is the way of managing. There are many things to be done in future. We are ready, but unfortunately funds are not ready now. And I can answer any type of a question. I appreciate your presence, and I see very high caliber professionals are in the audience. I am thanking to you for patiently hearing me for around 50 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Sugeshwara, for your comprehensive presentation on the status of floods as well as droughts, and what are the future proposals to sort of mitigate, as you very correctly said, floods and drought. And we have several questions, but due to time constraints, I think we can take one question. Now, there's a question like, we have been experiencing floods throughout the years, and do we have the irrigation department or the disaster management ministry, do we have any sort of plans to harness this water? I mean, we are having floods, but are we having any plans to harness this water or use this water more scientifically in an evidence-based manner?
Yeah, Dr. Lahiru, I think for that question, I have been partly answered. Now, the only way of harnessing this water is implementing the water resources development master plan, which we have introduced in the year 2014. Now, in that, if I go to that slide, My keys are not working, so I have this. This is one of these proposals. Diverting Kaluganga waters to Kudawalabe. And we have prepared this, but this is the master plan. Now, you see, this is one line. This is a very high resolution image, but I cannot zoom in this small screen. Now, this is, we call it Southeastern Dry Zone Canal. Now, propose Southeastern Dry Zone Canal, so that waters in Kalu River and Kelly River upstream, we can divert up to Monoraga, up to Buttala, through Udawalaga and some pass in some other areas, we can divert this water. This is the kind of a solution. And for other way, we are proposing diverting what you call this Kalani River into Mahavali upstream. And these kind of individual proposals are there and comprehensive proposals are there. These proposals has been developed by analyzing the whole picture, not the single picture. And if funds are available, we are ready for harnessing these water resources. But as I said, even though you harness these waters, you cannot completely mitigate downstream floods unless you have implemented flood mitigation proposals. Likewise, I said I show you Ratnapura flood mitigation, Kalani River flood mitigation like proposals. And because, for example, to understand this, I can say you, now we have built reservoir Drought at Kurunagala in Nicavarati area. This people in this area say this reservoir has enriched their lands, have enriched their environment. And though you could not completely mitigate downstream floods because the size of the reservoir is kind of a large reservoir. It's 67,000 acre feet of reservoir. Taking water into Mioe, up to Mioe, and feeding many paddy lands, feeding many other crops, feeding supplying drinking water demands of even the Kurunagala town in townships in this area. But frankly, you cannot mitigate downstream floods only by this proposal. You need separate proposals for downstream because, for example, even during a single event of rainfall, suppose now the Drought reservoir is empty, one single event of upstream rainfall is enough for filling the complete dam and 3 other times of dam capacity. And other 3 times capacity has to be spilling. You have no, in such an event, you have no other option. That spill water may be forcing the upstream part. If you are telling, if you are wanting this, if you want this, all these waters to be used, you have to build infinite size of capacity reservoirs. So which is never possible. And because we are inundating lands by building reservoirs, there's a limit. Nowadays building a tank is a war, kind of a war. It's not a easy business, not only from the society, even from the other competitors like forest, wildlife, kind of environmental issues. Then UNESCO is coming in. Then there are many issues. So water resources development is a war nowadays.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
yeah. Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. I think we have another question in line with what you are answering, like how these plans integrate to the proposed infrastructure development, such as highways and other land changes. I think you have been discussing this.
Dr. Lahiro, I could not follow you.
Like what you are saying now, like there was another question, like how are these plans, like what you have described now, the master plan and all, are integrated to the proposed infrastructure development, such as highways and other land changes?
Yeah, actually, this master plan is a kind of a pre-feasibility level proposals. You cannot develop a master plan for using full feasibility proposals. It's not the method. Now, such things has to be addressed during the individual feasibility studies. Now, there is a study called not environmental study, but some kind of a sustainability study, a concept developed by the Environmental Authority. We have done that study for most of these proposals. Then during that environmental study, it's not the complete EIA study, but socio-economic study or kind of, I cannot remember the name. During the end study, most of these other plans have been considered, like master plan of road master plan kind of things.
Right. Mr. Rohan Korea, I think we can accommodate another question. You have been raising your hand for some time. Rohan, can you put your question? We have around 1 to 2 minutes to finish everything. Yeah, Rohan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lahiru, and thank you as always. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Rohan. You can continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Engineer Sujishwara, my friend. I always admire your presentation, and
Hi, Rohan.
it's always so accurate. I mean, I'm so impressed the way that you have presented everything. Now my question is, Engineer Sujishwara, I always, although I look things in differently, you know, I have a different lens. Well, now I do understand that there is a El Nino behind in the background of this recent the rainfall pattern, because we have like 5 systems activate in near the equator, the 3 in the Pacific Ocean, and 2 in the Atlantic Ocean. So they're like 5 systems already activate in between this in behind this rainfall. So I'm not going to ask you to explain about this, but that's my impression, because as a global circulation model in observer, I always look at these things. My question is now, I really admire you, Mr. Sugishwara, now engineer. Now you said that we have like 103 river basins, but out of these 103 river basins, some of the most river basins which cause floods are in the wet zone. I don't know how many, but I believe you know how many. But can't we use this excessive water to feed the dry zone and feed the food insecurity of the country? Because I mean, I don't want to disclose my where I'm work, but we are looking for like integrated river basin management and use this excess water to feed and to secure the food security of the country. Thank you. That's for you.
Thank you, my friend, Mr. Rohan. As always, you are asking very kind of very timely, I mean, the very perfect questions. Now, The answer is directly, if I give you in short, part of these waters which are causing floods in the southwestern region can be diverted into dry zone. For example, as I said, this proposal is this southeastern dry zone canal. You cannot see these things, but these proposals are there in this big map. If you are coming into my office, I can show you enlarging these things. This only a part of these waters can be diverted. If you are because of the nature of these things, but the dry zones water demand can be met definitely. But the question is, if you are implemented these, if you implement all these proposals for diverting Kalu River into southwestern region, I mean the eastern region to Dawalawe and to Gubukaya kind of areas, then water crisis of that area can be solved. That is obvious. We have shown that. We have studied those things. We have shown clearly the benefits. However, you cannot mitigate completely the downstream floods. That's my argument by diverting part of these waters because of the nature, the technical reasons behind it. You can divert part of it, part of Kalu River waters, part of actually Gin-Nillala waters, Gin and Nillala waters, but only the upstream part, and part of Kellan River waters. You can never divert Kalu River waters to anywhere. You can never divert Kalu River, Ratnapura catchment waters to anywhere. Geographically, it cannot be done. You can divert some waters, but it may not be economically feasible. We have proved that. Now, Ratnapura catchment is a large catchment, but nature of the catchment, geography of the catchment doesn't allow to divert effectively these waters into dry zone or any other zone. That is the nature. We need to talk these things much in a much wider forum. How much we take in much longer time period. Now, only the Udawaya tributary waters can be diverted because of the elevation. You are a profession. I know you are aware of all these geographical, geological, and kind of climatological kind of things. So Ratnapura catchment cannot be diverted. So you cannot eliminate Ratnapura. You cannot even get the support of eliminating Ratnapura floods. Mitigating Ratnapura flood diversion is not a solution. But increasing developments are there. Marulala Reservoir, as I said, but cannot be implemented because of socio-economic reasons and environmental reasons now. So that is why we are proposing dry dams to mitigate floods. But floods are now. Somebody can say you are safely sending water to sea, but that is the only option available. That by safely sending water to sea by implementing flood mitigation, saving a lot of money. It's flood damage is not that amounts spending for compensation and for feeding people during the flood time. It's a very small part of that. But real damage is in the industry, in the society, in the household damages. Those are the real damages caused by floods. Mitigation floods.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I think we have ran out of our time. It's a very interesting topic.
Okay,
I think.
thank you, Dr. Thank you.
I think we may need another webinar to discuss all the development aspects as well as disaster mitigation aspects. I think you have very clearly, in a very comprehensive manner, sort of explained the water resource management in this country, although it's technical, it's very clear and it can be clearly understood by even the medical professionals. So I think you have achieved your.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lanka. That's a very big appreciation to me.
Yeah, you have achieved your task. Yeah, so because of the time constraints, I think we have to sort of finish for today. Thank you very much, everyone. All the participants were actively participating for the webinar. And for our esteemed speaker, Mr. Sugeshwar, I know he's a very busy person, but whenever we invite him for a webinar, he's readily available for us to conduct webinars. Thank you, Engineer Sugeshwar, and thank you, everyone. So we will be meeting again with a similar kind of webinar from the Disaster Management and Resilience Expert Committee of Sri Lanka Medical Association. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions to be sort of diverted to Mr. Sugeshwara, you can always reach Sri Lanka Medical Association website, and we have our email there. You can email us any further questions. Thank you very much. A very good night, and we will see you again. Thank you.
Thank you all, and very good night to all of you.